Consider a question that most men have sat with at some point without finding a clean answer. You are interacting with a woman and you genuinely cannot tell whether what you are feeling between you is real or whether she is simply being pleasant. You replay the conversation. You study her messages for something definitive. You feel simultaneously drawn in and uncertain. What if the answer to that uncertainty was already visible, not in anything she has said, but in a pattern of behavior that most men walk right past? Women rarely announce their feelings directly in the early stages of genuine emotional interest. They signal them, and those signals are not loud or obvious. They are quiet, instinctive, and rooted in psychology that operates largely beneath conscious awareness. When a woman is genuinely drawn to someone, her defenses shift. You will not necessarily see it in her words. You will see it in the quality of her energy when she is near you. The emotional walls she has built over years of experience and accumulated disappointment begin to lower slightly and gradually, often without her fully registering that it is happening. She starts revealing her authentic self in pieces. The most common mistake men make in these moments is looking for verbal declarations rather than behavioral patterns. Genuine emotional attraction in a woman does not get announced. It leaks out through small, consistent behaviors. She begins mirroring your tone and rhythm. She picks up your phrases without noticing. She matches the cadence of your speech. This is subconscious mimicry, and it is a neurological sign of deepening connection. When she does this, she has stopped performing a social role and started aligning with you. Her nervous system has registered that being around you feels safe. And for a woman, safety in this context is not about physical security. It is about emotional attunement, the felt sense that she does not have to manage herself carefully around you. Watch for these shifts. She laughs more freely. Her eye contact becomes softer and sustained rather than politely brief. She begins offering small personal disclosures, things she would not mention to just anyone. When these appear together, she is already emotionally invested, not physically, but in the way that matters most and lasts longest. Her guard is coming down. Most men either rush toward this opening with anxious, approval-seeking behavior, which collapses it immediately, or they second-guess what they are seeing and pull back. Both responses destroy something that was being freely offered. When a woman begins to emotionally synchronize with you, she has already made an internal decision. Even if she has not voiced it and may not even consciously recognize it yet, she is thinking, without necessarily having words for it, that this person feels different. The real question is not whether she is drawn to you. It is whether you can recognize what is happening before your reaction pushes it away. Here is an uncomfortable truth worth sitting with. Most men do not lose a woman's interest because she decided she was not attracted to them. They lose it because they did not understand how delicate the early stages of emotional opening actually are. Attraction in a woman is not a logical decision. It is closer to an emotional surrender. And surrender only happens in the presence of someone who communicates strength, stability, and a quality of genuine unpredictability, all held in balance. When she leans slightly closer than the conversation requires, when she lingers past the natural end of an interaction, when she looks at you for half a second longer than feels neutral, she is not asking whether you like her. She is asking a deeper question without words. Are you grounded enough that I can actually let my guard down around you? Women do not fall for men they have fully figured out. They fall for men they feel. The mistake most men make at exactly this moment is to start explaining themselves. They overshare. They work to prove they are trustworthy. They offer credentials for their character. To her nervous system, that kind of behavior registers not as warmth, but as instability. It communicates that you need her approval, and attraction dissolves the moment she senses that need. What she is actually looking for is someone who can remain composed within uncertainty. Someone whose steadiness does not depend on her reaction. As a woman's interest deepens, her behavior becomes emotionally transparent in quiet ways. She begins creating small reasons to interact, asking questions she does not strictly need answers to, playfully pushing back on your perspective. None of this is random. It is her nervous system extending an invitation toward emotional intimacy. She wants to see whether you can meet her in the places she does not usually show. If you respond to that playfulness with calm confidence, not arrogance and not emotional distance, she feels genuinely seen rather than evaluated. That is the moment real bonding begins, because connection does not grow through intensity. It grows through consistent presence. You do not need to pursue her. You simply need to remain centered while she decides whether to step closer. Women do not fall for what a man says. They fall for how they feel when he says nothing. That grounded, quiet confidence is what her instincts are scanning for. She is not drawn to a man who validates her at every turn. She is drawn to one who is stable when she is not. So when she begins offering you her attention, her softness, her curiosity, and her energy, do not smother it with analysis or urgency. Let it breathe. That is what turns early attraction into something that deepens over time. Here is the honest reality that most people avoid saying clearly. You cannot manufacture a woman's love through strategy. What you can do is become the kind of man whose presence feels emotionally safe to love. That is where real attraction lives. Not in tactics or performance, but in what gets called emotional gravity, the quality that appears when you stop trying to impress and start simply being genuinely present in yourself. When she is genuinely interested in you, she does not need grand gestures from you. She needs to feel your groundedness, your tone, your eye contact, the way you hold silence. All of it communicates something that words cannot reach. If she is giving you her attention, what she is really asking in the background of every interaction is, can this person handle my emotional reality without losing himself? If the answer she senses is yes, her attraction deepens. If she feels your energy shifting in response to her reactions, her instincts begin to withdraw. Women instinctively assess for emotional containment in the men they consider. They will test this without consciously intending to. Small challenges, a little distance after showing interest, a provocative question, a moment of being unexpectedly cool. Most men interpret these as warning signs and begin working harder to recover the warmth they felt a moment ago. That effort is precisely the wrong response. When she creates that kind of small friction, the right move is to breathe and stay grounded and let her return at her own pace, because she will. When she senses that your self-worth is not contingent on her approval in any given moment, something shifts in her perception of you. You stop being simply someone she is considering, and you begin to feel like something she does not want to lose. From that place, she opens more deeply. Her stories become personal. Her tone softens. She starts mirroring your composure rather than generating her own noise around you. That is not coincidence. That is emotional bonding. She is communicating without language that she trusts you with something real. And when emotional trust reaches that level, attraction begins to transform into genuine attachment. She starts thinking about you when you are not around, not because of anything you did, but because of how she felt when you were calm and present and authentic. That is the thing most men never learn. You do not earn a woman's heart by chasing her. You earn it by mastering your own internal state. There is a stage that follows this, and it tends to confuse men significantly. Once she is already emotionally invested, her behavior can become paradoxical. She might withdraw. She might act cooler than she was a day ago. She might become harder to read. Most men assume this means she is pulling away. In reality, she is protecting herself. Something emotional in her has been touched that she did not plan for, and the part of her that has been hurt before is fighting back. Attraction opens her vulnerability, and vulnerability frightens most women who carry old wounds. How you respond in this stage determines almost everything. If you start reaching more, texting more frequently, asking what is wrong, offering explanations, you confirm the fear she is managing, which is that your steadiness was conditional. But if you remain calm, warm, and unshaken, something powerful follows. She begins to relax back into connection with you because what she most deeply wants is not to be chased. It is to trust a man who does not lose his center when she tests whether it is real. When a woman is emotionally attached, she will sometimes generate small turbulence in the relationship, not deliberately, but instinctively. She is confirming that you will not disappear when things become complicated. The men who fail at this moment are the ones who take her reactions personally and become defensive, cold, or increasingly eager to fix things. The man who holds steady, who listens and responds rather than reacts, who can hold space for both her warmth and her difficulty, that man becomes something she did not expect to find. She starts leaning on him emotionally without even registering the shift. She shares things she has not shared with others. She values his perspective. She stops performing around him. When that happens, you are witnessing genuine investment, not infatuation. But do not mistake her openness for something that maintains itself automatically. The quality that drew her, that grounded masculine presence, is not a static achievement. It is something that has to be lived continuously. The moment your sense of identity begins to orbit around her approval, the dynamic that attracted her starts to collapse. What she respects is not someone who needs her admiration to feel whole. What she respects is someone who remains purposeful and clear-headed even when she is inconsistent. That consistency through her inconsistency is what builds genuine devotion. Here is what happens once she has truly chosen you emotionally. She begins to mirror not just your behavior, but your internal rhythm. If you carry peace, she feels it. If you carry chaos, she feels that too, and it unsettles her. That is the extent of the influence you hold once emotional trust has been established. She will begin investing without being asked, remembering the details of your life, making room for you in her daily patterns, subtly organizing her priorities around your presence. You will not need to request her effort. She will give it freely because she wants to, but the more deeply she feels, the more sensitive she becomes to shifts in your energy. What some men read as neediness is actually something else entirely. Emotional attunement. When a woman cares, she registers you even through your silence. A change in your tone or your availability will not go unnoticed. This is why calm confidence matters more at this stage, not less. She does not need you to be flawless. She needs your stability to be real rather than situational. Relationships either deepen or begin to quietly erode at this stage. And the difference comes down to whether you remain present and honest and emotionally composed, or whether you allow complacency or insecurity to creep in. Women do not end relationships because they stopped loving someone. They end them because they stopped feeling safe enough to keep loving that person. Your inner steadiness, your capacity to remain rooted in who you are, even when the emotional weather shifts between you, is the most magnetic quality you can carry. If she is softening around you, if her tone changes when she speaks to you, if she is letting her emotions exist without carefully managing them in your presence, recognize what that is. It is not simply liking someone. It is emotional surrender. You have already reached her. What determines whether you keep her has nothing to do with charm or effort in the conventional sense. It has to do with emotional integrity, with showing her, not once, but consistently, that your strength is not a performance. It is simply who you are. Women do not stay for excitement. They stay for the kind of peace that starts to feel like belonging. Become that for someone, guard it, and continue growing it, because the man who masters his own inner calm becomes genuinely difficult to forget. If this gave you a new lens for something you have been trying to understand, share it with someone who needs to hear it. And if something here resonated with an experience you have had, drop a comment. Real reflection from real people is where this kind of understanding actually takes root.